Hi everybody, Marco Carbajo here from businesscreditbuilders.org. Today's video we're going to talk about how to get business credit cards with large credit limits. For those of you, if you're applying for your very first business credit card, or if you're a business owner who already has business credit cards and you're trying to get more business credit cards with much larger credit limits, or if you're considering going through our business credit card funding program where we actually get the cards for you, this is the video for you. We're going to share with you the top 10 factors that determine on whether or not you're going to get a large credit limit approval and how to increase your projections. So when you go through our pre-qualification process, what determines how much we can acquire for you as far as your projections, what's going to impact those factors, and what banks are going to issue to you when it comes to an approval for a business credit card. So let's get started. Well, what I want to talk about first is the information you're going to want to have on hand. So if you're applying for a business credit card yourself, or if you're thinking about going through a done-for-you business credit card funding and your goal is to get as much business credit card approvals as possible, large credit limits because you need it for purchases, you need that 0% intro APR period. Well, the first thing that's important is to start from the very beginning is what documentation or what information is going to be required of you when you apply for a card or when you go through a service like ours. So first, obviously, your company name, your employer identification number, your EIN. Now, you can apply for business credit cards as a sole proprietorship, but just keep in mind, if your goal is to create a separation between you as an individual and your business, and you want your company to have its own credit identity, and also for liability protection, you want to incorporate your business. You want to consult with the CPA on what structure would be ideal for you, whether it's an LLC, a corporation, a limited partnership. So there's different structures. So once you incorporate your business, you're getting an EIN number. Then you're going to obviously want to have your dedicated business phone number, your email address for your company, your address. You want to make sure you know what your physical business address is, as well as a business mailing address. And those two addresses can be different, which is fine. So some people, if you work from home, that's going to be your physical business address. And let's say you have a business mailing address because you want all your correspondence to go to your, let's say, your virtual office. You can do that too. But you want to establish that before you actually apply for a business credit card. You want to also obviously know what your industry classification is. Now, your industry, the industry you're involved in is also going to be an impacting factor. But I'm going to list these top 10 factors here next, after we go over some of the things I want to make sure you have on hand. You also want to know your bank name, where you do banking at. You want to have an established bank account for your business prior to applying for a business credit card. Now, it's not mandatory, but I do highly recommend that you already have a business bank account established. Have your contact details there, like which bank, your account number, routing number, because sometimes banks will request a copy of your business bank statement for verification. Also, who's the owner? Is there one owner of the business? Is there multiple owners? And who's going to be the applicant on behalf of the business? What I'm talking about in this particular video, though, I just want to cover this, is we're talking about mainstream business credit cards. I'm not going to be talking about fintech cards. These are cards that are issued by financial technology companies, like you know, the Divvy card. There's Corpay. There's a lot of different fintech cards. Those are really great cards for those of you who are looking for large credit limits and you have really good revenues coming through, but those are charge cards. You have to pay them off in full within 30 days. In this video, I'm going to talk about getting large credit limits from mainstream credit card issuers, like Bank of America, US Bank, Wells Fargo, American Express, etc. That's who I'm talking about when I'm talking about getting large credit limits with mainstream cards, because those particular types of cards, they're revolving. You can carry debt, so you can pay the balance in full at the end of the month, or you can carry a debt, make a minimum monthly payment. These particular bank card issuers, the mainstream ones, offer 0% offers as well. Fintech cards don't offer that because they don't charge interest. You have to pay the balance in full within 30 days. Issues to avoid. I want to first talk about this because this happens a lot of times when you want to get a large credit limit for your card. You have a really good credit score, you apply, and then you get declined, or there's an issue, or you get a lower limit than expected. There's some issues that you're going to come across that you may not be aware of, so that's why I'm sharing with this in this video, because we're going to do kind of a little deep dive on the credit report, what the underwriters look at. So stay tuned, just keep watching. So one issue to avoid is these EIN document, also known as your CP575. This is something we see on a regular basis when it comes to applying for a business credit card. Underwriters sometimes will request this document for verification purposes. They want to see your EIN. What's common is the address on your CP575 letter is a mismatch. Let's say you moved when you originally incorporated your business, but now you moved to a different location. You have a new address, you have on your bank statements, you have a new address that you're putting on applications, but your EIN document has never been updated. Okay, so if an underwriter requests that and it has an outdated address on there, that's an address mismatch, and that's an issue. So you're going to want to fix that. So what you'll need to do there is, if you see this 800 number on the screen here, you're going to want to call the IRS Business Specialty line and request an address update. Make sure you're the owner, and then they'll update your address, and then you can request them. They can mail you a new EIN document with the correct address, or they can fax it to you. Request them to fax it to you, because that way, and you want to have a fax number. There's easy ways to get free fax numbers as well, but that way they can fax it to you. Let them know you're applying for credit, you need this document right away, you're applying for funding, etc. But they can send this to you the same day. Then you can have your new EIN document. This is an important document. You want to make sure it's updated. Another issue is your last name doesn't match on the EIN document. Okay, let's say you got married, you have a different last name. That's something you also want to update. You want to make sure this particular document is something that you have. Let's say you misplaced it. You don't have it. You don't know where to find it. Then you can also call that number and request, make sure all the information is accurate, and then request them to fax you a copy. Okay, so that's one issue you want to avoid. Another common thing that we see is trouble with the entity connection between you as the applicant and the business. We see this a lot with clients that come to us where they're trying to apply for funding, and this is something where, and it's not an issue that we have, this is an issue that they come across when underwriters cannot connect the applicant to the actual entity itself through public records. All right, what I mean by that is, this is something that's common when you have like Delaware corporations. If an underwriter connect you as an applicant to your business, that can run into some more issues where they need more verification. They need to see a connection. So for those of you, an easy way to do this is go to your state filing where your company was incorporated, do an entity search and look up your company filing documents on public records there, and make sure when you pull it up that there's a connection there, that your name, your applicant, being the applicant, is connected to the company. Okay, or your name could be on this EIN document, your CP575, then you're fine there too, because it shows that this company name, you're the owner. That's a connection there. But if they cannot connect you to this business, they're going to ask for more information, like maybe a bank statement, or they may ask for other ways to verify you as the owner, or a connection, or some type of position into the company. Okay, I'm just going to let you know that that can happen. So another issue to avoid is inability to pass a verification. This does happen in today's marketplace when it comes to applying for business credit cards. Mainstream credit card issuers are going through more verification purposes. Because there's so much fraud out there, they may request for you to provide a utility bill as the owner to connect that, this is you and this is where you live. We have your business information, but we have to verify you as the individual. Or some banks are also requesting you to come to the actual local bank location to finalize your business credit card application. This is happening, okay? So I'm not saying it's happening all the time, but these are some verifications that are being requested by some of the bank card issuers. I'm talking about mainstream bank card issuers. Also, an issue that could happen is you could be in a restricted industry. This doesn't mean you're going to get denied. Depending on the bank card issuer, you may be in an industry that they classify as a high risk, so this may limit the amount of credit they extend to your business, but this is a risk factor that they take into consideration. Okay, let's get started on the top 10 factors we're going to talk about that impact you getting a large credit limit approval with a mainstream business credit card issuer. The first thing I want you to do is order a copy of all 3 of your credit reports and your FICO scores. All right, so you may say I have a Credit Karma account, or I have a free credit where I can see my credit report. Just keep in mind, services like that, they provide you a Vantage score, an educational credit score. It's not your actual FICO scores. When you apply for a credit card, most bank card issuers use your FICO bank card score, not your FICO 08 score or your consumer FICO score. Just keep in mind your FICO bank card score, that's an actual credit score that many bank card issuers use that rates your FICO score as how well you manage credit cards. Okay, so keep in mind, FICO has over 50 different FICO scores. They have a mortgage FICO score, they have an auto FICO score, they have the bank card FICO score, which is all about how you manage credit cards. So there's different rating systems out there. But you at least want to know what your FICO score is, your consumer FICO score. So I recommend using knowmycredit.org. You can get all 3 credit reports, all 3 of your FICO scores for $1 for 7 days. Then they charge $32 a month to monitor your credit. And this is the site right here you're going to go to. I recommend this because this is all 3 FICO scores, all 3 reports. And if you don't have a service where you have access to your credit reports every single month, anytime, I highly recommend you do that. That way you know where you stand, if there's anything that's being reported that shouldn't be reported, you have identity theft protection, etc., all those good things. Rating systems, you've seen this all over the place, FICO score ranges. You want to be in the 670 or higher FICO score range with at least 2 bureaus or more. So that's just a score, that's a benchmark indicator. That's all it is. Don't think that because you have a 700 credit score, you're going to get a high credit limit approval or 800 credit score, because there's so many more factors that go into what the approval is, which I'm going to cover in this video. Once you pull all 3 reports, you have your FICO scores, I want to share with you what you're going to need to do in looking at your credit report. This is the first, I would say, the number 1 factor that's going to determine getting a large credit limit approval from a bank card issuer for your business is your comparable credit. Now, what does that mean, comparable credit? You're going to hear me talk about that a lot. Comparable credit means you as an individual, as an applicant on behalf of the business. Now, for some of you say, well, how do I just want them to check my business credit. I don't want them to check my personal credit. This whole entire video is for those of you who are small business owners. If you're doing millions of dollars in revenue every single month, your business is strong enough. Obviously, there are cards in the marketplace from mainstream credit cards where they won't even check your personal credit. They don't even require a personal guarantee because you meet that volume threshold. Maybe 2-3 million a year in revenue. You're a very well-established business. That doesn't apply to you. This is for those of you who are small business owners, okay, or you're even a startup. So when you're not a well-established business, a large business, or even a medium-sized business, banks are going to require a personal credit check when it comes to mainstream credit card issuers. They're going to want to check your credit. So what they do is they look at your comparable credit. They're looking at how you as an owner are managing your personal credit cards, because to them, that's going to kind of give them a determining factor of how you're more likely to manage your business credit cards. The better your comparable credit is on the personal side, the larger the credit limits they're going to be more willing to issue you on the business side. Okay, so let's talk about your primary credit cards. You got your credit report, you got your FICO scores. Now, the first thing I want you to ask yourself is, how many primary credit cards do I have? All right, I'm not talking about authorized user accounts. Underwriters don't even look at that. I know that helps boost your score up, but it's your primary cards that are issued to you as an individual. How many of them do you have? Do you have 1? Do you have 2? Do you have 4? Do you have 5? Do you have 20? All right, so there's also, you want to make sure you want to have a couple of primary credit cards, not just one. One is very little. 20 may be way too much, all right? There's also a thing as too much credit exposure, but, it's not a bad thing, but you want to be strategic in the number of cards that you have and who you have them with. But let's get back to the basics here. How many cards do you have? That's number 1. The less cards you have, if you only have 1 primary credit card, remember that's very limited credit. It's very limited comparable credit. All right, so if you have 1 credit card and that's all you have, and let's say it's only 2 years old, you can't expect a bank to say, oh, we're going to give you, a $20,000 business credit card for a startup business, and all you have is 1 credit card with a limit of, let's say, $2,500 that you have for less than 2 years. All right, so that's just an example, but the number of cards is very important. I like to recommend at least 3 or more primary credit cards at least. The next thing you want to ask is date open. When was this card open? Is it less than 2 years old or is it more than 2 years old? Ideally, you want your credit cards to be over 2 years old. Anything under 2 years old is considered very new. Now, you may have 4 or 5 credit cards that are 5 years old and you had one that you just applied and you got approved 2 years ago. That's okay. You still have the majority of your cards are over 2 years old. If the majority of your cards are under 2 years old, that's considered a young credit history. Okay, so you want your primaries to be over 2 and you want that factor, that weight, to be more of your primaries are over 2 years than under 2 years. Next thing is we're going to talk about is your bank card issuers. This whole video applies to mainstream credit cards issued to you by major bank card issuers. What does that mean? What I'm talking about is mainstream credit cards are any credit card with a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover logo on it. You can have a credit card with a department store doesn't have any one of those logos, because you can only use that card. That's called a store card or a retail credit card. We can only use it at the card. And let's say you have a $10,000 credit limit. That's not a mainstream credit card. It's a store card, okay? And that doesn't apply to you getting approval for a large credit card limit for your business because you have a $10,000, let's say, Target card that you can only use at Target, all right? So this is mainstream credit cards and issued by major bank card issuers. Now, this is another thing I want to make sure you're aware of. Major bank card issuers are like, Capital One, Citi, Discover, American Express, U.S. Bank, Navy Federal, Truist. And there's many larger credit card issuers. Those are the ones that are going to play a bigger factor when it comes to you getting approved for a large credit limit from another major bank card issuer. They like to see that you have another major bank card issued by another major bank as well. Okay, if you don't have any other major bank card issuers, all you have is, let's say, store cards, then to the bank, they're going to be the first one to the table to be and they're not going to give you a large credit approval. All right, so just keep that in mind. That's what I'm talking about, is your primaries, how many you have, date open, and who issued them. Is it a major bank card issuer? So this is going to allow you to kind of analyze your credit report and see where you're at. This is another major factor, is your credit limits. How high are your credit limits with those particular cards that fit all this criteria I'm talking about? Is your highest credit limit $2,500? Is your highest credit limit $20,000 or more? All right, the higher the credit limit you have on a mainstream credit card issued by a major bank card issuer, the heavier the weight that's going to play when it comes to getting a funding projection for business credit card funding, or even if you're applying on your own. Okay, so they're going to look at that and say, oh, this person has a $20,000 Capital One card they've had for 5 years. So just keep in mind that's a much more stronger comparable credit than, let's say, they've had a Capital One for only a year and their highest credit limit is $2,500. All right, so now I do understand you're going to have a variation here. You may have one card you've had for 5 years, let's say, with a $10,000 limit, and then all your other cards are $1,000, $2,500, and you've had them only like 2 or 3 years. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just letting you know, if more of your cards were older and higher credit limits and they're major bank card issuers, that's a heavier weighting factor that gives a much stronger profile in the eyes of the bank card issuers when you're applying for a business credit card as a startup or as an existing business. All right, and there's other factors. I'm just talking, this is just number one. There's 10 of them I'm going to cover in this video. Your payment history, that's another important factor, is how you're paying on your credit cards. And I'm just talking about credit card comparable credit. All right, I'm not talking about anything else yet, which we're getting into next. Your debt to credit utilization is going to be another major factor in determining how high of a credit limit you're going to get on the business credit card side. All right, so if you're at 50% utilization, means let's say you have a $10,000 credit card and you owe $5,000 balance currently on the card, you're at a 50% utilization. That's okay. You want to be at under 50% or below. But remember, if you have multiple credit cards, and let's say several of them have balances and some are at 50%, 60%, but let's say out of the 5 cards you have, 2 are at 0 balance, that's okay. That can weigh it out. All right. Now, if you're not sure where you should be or how do I determine if I'm going to get a high credit limit approval, that's kind of the advantage of our services like ours when we do a pre-qualification review. So what do when it comes to your credit card limits are very low and you know you're not going to get a high approval because you have very minimal comparable credit when it comes to the size of your credit limits. So one strategy you could do is you can request credit limit increases on those current cards. I'm going to share with you what you want to do though before you request a credit limit increase with one of your current primary credit cards that you have. All right, so first you want to make sure you have had 6 months of good payment history with that particular credit card. That's number one. So if you recently opened this card and it's 6 months old, you have good credit history, you've used it, all right, not a dormant card. Okay, this happens a lot of times, where we have clients that, have had a credit card for over a year, they really haven't been using it at all, and they're trying to get a credit limit increase and they got declined. Well, that's because the bank looks at it and say, well, you're not even using this card. Why would we give you more credit? Okay, so you want to have frequency of use of the card to justify them giving you more credit. And they may also ask you, why do you need the credit limit increase? You may have a major purchase coming up, so you want to have a reason prepared if they ask you that when you request a credit limit increase. You want to make sure your FICO score is good. You want to make sure you're at least 670 or higher before you request a credit limit increase, because they may do a soft pull on your credit to see where you're at. Another thing, a good time to request a credit limit increase is if you lowered your credit utilization ratio. So let's say you paid off a card or you paid down the debt pretty decently on that card. That's a good time to request a credit limit increase because they can see that you've been paying it down, you've been managing it, or you paid it off, but you have another major purchase come up and you want to increase your credit limit. So that's another factor. Now, this is important is you have a lower debt to income ratio. That's a good time to also request a credit limit increase. What does that mean? Let's say when you applied for this card, you were making X amount of dollars, all right? But since then, a year's gone by, 2 years have gone by, and your income has gone way up. So let's say you were making $75,000, but now you're making $125,000 in income. So that's a big increase in income that you weren't previously making. So now that you make more income, you obviously can manage more debt because you have a higher income. So you've lowered your debt to income ratio. Another thing that may have happened, let's say when you applied for this card, you had a loan, but now that loan is paid off. So you don't have that loan payment anymore. It doesn't show up. It shows in your credit report as paid off. So if you lowered your debt obligation, now you can potentially incur more potential debt. Thus, they may increase your credit limit. Okay, but I want to make sure when you request a credit limit increase with a bank, one of your existing cards, you want to make sure when you request that they do not do a hard pull on your credit. If they're going to do a hard pull on your credit, don't do the increase. I don't recommend it because you don't want a hard inquiry. A soft inquiry is fine. But make sure they only do a soft pull. Some of them will just do an account review and they'll give you an immediate answer most of the times. Okay, so with that credit limit increase, that can boost up your amount of credit power. Now, what I want you to keep in mind though is before let's say they bumped your credit limit from $5,000 to $10,000. On a credit card, you're going to need to wait for your credit bureau to update to reflect that new limit now before you actually apply for a credit card. Or let's say you're applying for a pre-qualification review with us for business credit card funding and you've gotten some increases but it hasn't shown up yet. Just let us know that way we can keep that in mind when we're doing a review for you, that your credit limit is going to be reporting as a higher limit on within the next 30 days. Okay, so a credit limit increase is very important. And there's also sometimes you don't want to request this to boost up your comparable credit. Is if you had recent missed payments with your credit card, that's a big no-no. Or you just opened the credit card recently, or you had a recent credit limit increase, don't request another one. So like I said, these are some times you don't want to request it. If you applied for other credit cards or loans, or you've maxed out that credit card, don't request a credit limit increase. What I want to do is talk about number 2. We just talked about the main factor, which is your comparable credit. We've broken down credit cards, some of the things they look at. Now I want to talk about the other 9 factors that are going to make a big impact in you getting business credit cards with large credit limits. is number one is open collections on your credit report. So you have your credit report in front of you. You've kind of gone through some of the things I just talked about. But let's say you have an open collection. It's a small little $200 collection you got a couple of years ago. I'm telling you, a paid collection is so much better than an open collection. It just is not favorable. And if it's an incorrect reporting, you want to dispute it. I recommend using our AI credit repair software, which you can check that video right here. The software itself is free. You will need to connect a smart credit monitoring service that we link in there to import the reports to use that software and create disputes. But it's a great software for repairing your credit if you have some credit issues or late pays, etc. But open collections, you don't want to have that. That's going to have an impact on your approval or even a potential denial because of an open collection. Recently opened credit card accounts. We see this happen all the time. You watch a video like this, or you watch someone else's video where they give you some strategies on some things to do before you apply for business credit cards. You go out there and apply for business credit cards. You get a small little approval, let's say a $4,000 approval from American Express, and then you go try another credit card issuer, you get denied, and they say, well, you know what, I'm not having good luck. I'm going to go to a company like businesscreditbuilders.org and have them do a review and get them credit cards for me. We come back and we give you, let's say, a smaller projection. You're like, well, why? Well, it's because you just opened you got 2 new inquiries, and that's comparable credit inquiries. That's credit card inquiries, which is not good. And you now have a recently opened credit card account. Or let's say you opened up 2 personal credit cards in the past 3 months, and now you want to get some business credit cards. That's new activity. That's new comparable. It's credit card related accounts. So those are some things you don't want to do if your intention is to raise a large amount of credit approvals for the business, and you want to go through a service like ours to ensure that you achieve that. Don't get some recently opened credit card accounts before that. All right, because that will lower your projection or may even deny a projection where we can't work your file. There's just too much activity or too much recently opened credit card accounts. Your account activity is another factor. What's account activity? So when let's say you want to apply for business credit cards, or you want to apply for a business credit card to get a large limit approval, but let's say 30 days ago you got an auto loan, and then 3 months before that you got approved for a mortgage. 6 months ago you got a personal loan as well. So there's a lot of activity, let's say in the past six months. You know, banks look at that. They don't like that. That looks at you're aggressively searching for credit. That's why with our business credit card funding, we do everything in 14 and 20 days and we're done. It doesn't allow things to season out. None of the accounts report your personal credit. But that's why you want to be very strategic in the order in which you apply for credit cards for the business, or the timing and when you apply for, let's say, some major purchases like an auto loan or even a mortgage. So these are all factors that play in. So your account activity. Number 4 is inquiries and the types of inquiries that you incur. Obviously, soft inquiries don't have no impact at all in getting a large credit limit approval for the business. When I talk about the types of inquiries, is a mortgage inquiry is not going to have as much of an impact as a comparable credit card inquiry. Okay, so if you, let's say, look at your credit report and say, okay, I got 4 inquiries in the past 12 months. 3 of them are for credit cards. One of them is for a personal loan. Okay, well then your comparable inquiry is you've had 3 credit card inquiries in the past 12 months. So the likelihood of you getting a credit card approval for the business very high when you have already 3 credit card inquiries in the past 12 months. You're treading a very thin line. You may get 1 approval, but after that, you may be pretty much done for at least another 6 months. Okay, so the types of inquiries matter. We have people come to us, and let's say they've had a mortgage inquiry, they've had 2 auto inquiries in the past 90 days. That's okay because they're not comparable inquiries. They don't weigh as heavy compared to actual credit card inquiries. So those are things you want to keep into consideration when applying for additional business credit cards for your business, or this is the first time you're applying for a business credit card for your business. The age of your business is another factor that's going to determine the amount of you get extended in approval for a business credit card. So if, like I said, if you're over 2 years old, that's a plus. If you're under 2 years old in the bank size, you're a much higher risk because you're a startup. They even consider startups under 5 years, but like as far as credit cards go, 2 years or under is very, very risky. It doesn't mean you're not going to get approved. It's just keep that in mind. It's a risk factor that goes into getting approvals and the amount you get approved for. And like I said, industry classification. If you're in a high risk industry like real estate, that's going to weigh in when you're applying for credit for the business. All right. So your business debt is another thing. If you have any UCC filings on your business, that could impact when you have a credit card issuer that may run a business credit check on your company, or they may look if you have a UCC filing on the business. That's business debts that are going to weigh in your approvals and how much. Also, if you have existing business credit cards already, we have many business owners that come to us. They may have one business credit card or two. The key thing we ask is how much debt do you currently have on that card? Are you maxed out on that? That's a big no-no. Or are you at 50% utilization? That's okay, but that's going to weigh in as your current debt load that you have for your business. Now, some people say, well, I have one business credit card. It's not reporting to my personal credit, and I want to get more. So, what does it matter how much I owe? Folks, I want you to realize the bank card issuers, they may pull a report from SBFE. They may run a business credit check on your company. They'll find out, and also they have partner banks. Or you can have the existing bank where you currently have one card with, and you want to get another one. They can see the balance of your other card or your other accounts that you have. So that's not something you can hide. And then, of course, your business credit reports. That's another factor. The bank card issuers, so they run a credit check on your business, whether it's an Experian business report. They may run an SBFE report. And that's why we always talk about how important it is to build up your business credit, because this can only improve your ability when there's more data for a bank to review your credit as not just as a personal individual, but as a business. They can assess, the business has an established business credit report, it has these different trade references reporting, it has a good business credit rating. That's going to impact your approval amount as well. It could play a big impact in that. Then the number 9 is, I have to say, is an existing relationship. Do you have an existing relationship with the bank that you're currently applying for a business credit card with? It's not a mandatory thing, but it is a helpful thing if that relationship is healthy. All right, one of the things I want to just squash right now, and this is, I do see this in a lot of videos out there that says, well, just set up a bank account with all these different banks and apply for a business credit card, and you'll get approved because you have a bank account with them. You get a large credit limit. I'm sorry, that just opening a business bank account, that does help that you have an account with them. But the relationship is how that account has been managed. Do you have any revenue coming through that bank account? How long have you had that bank account? What's the average daily balance on that bank account, whether it's a business or personal? Okay, so don't just get into that where if I just open a bank account for the business with this bank, they're going to give me a huge credit card for the business. It doesn't work that way. If it was that easy, then everybody would be getting, large credit limits and banks would go out of business. Banks are much smarter than that, folks. They look at data. They look at history. They look at revenues, they look at management on your accounts, etc. So it is helpful. It does play a role, but there's more into it than just having the actual account. All right. So I want to cover these top 10 factors that determine how you get large credit limit approvals for your business. Now, for those of you who want to really go into, I want to maximize this. I understand it. I'm going to increase my credit limits, or this is what I have. I'm in a good position, and you want to ensure that you take advantage of that window of opportunity to get maximum approvals. Then I do recommend to consider our business credit card funding program, where it's a done-for-you process. We acquire the business credit cards for you. It's about 4 to 5 business credit cards in total that we acquire. Our review process is completely free. It doesn't cost you anything to do a review. We're not pulling your credit. What you're providing to us is a recent copy of your credit report and FICO score, and you fill out a simple pre-qualification form. The review is free. And then in 24 to 40 hours, we contact you back and we provide you funding projections. We let you know this is how much we project we can acquire for you in business credit card approvals in the course of 14 to 20 days. That's how fast our service is. We don't take an entire year. We're not getting you personal credit cards on top of business. We're not getting you store cards. These are revolving business credit cards issued by mainstream credit card issuers. Each card will come with a 0% introductory offer on purchases for up to 18 months. These will only report to business credit and help you establish your company's credit file. And then every 6 to 12 months, using these cards responsibly, you can request credit limit increase with those business credit cards so you can scale your access to credit. And then you could do another round of funding in 6 to 12 months to get even more business credit cards for your business. This is truly a great strategy for those of you who are looking to maximize your good credit that you've established. And like I said, this is going to report as financial trade lines. This is done in 14, 20 days. And this is the only documents we need from you to go through funding if you want to move forward. We have a funding agreement. And then we also require a driver's license, EIN document, and your certificate of formation. So what do you do to pre-qualify to see where you're at? You just go to businesscreditbuilders.org. Here's our website right here. You're just going to click on this pre-qualify now tab right there, and that's going to take you to this pre-qualification form. All you need to do is fill out this pre-qualification form and scroll down right here, and there's a tab right here where you can upload your credit report for us to do the review. For those of you looking to build business credit, we also have a business credit building system. This is a do-it-yourself platform. It's web-based. No need to install or update software. This allows you to establish additional trade lines in addition to business credit cards, but also from vendors, suppliers. This helps you build a diversity of credit for your company. And we also have a business credit test in there that allows you to assess where you're at to see what type of funding products are available to you as a business. So this is a real powerful platform. If you go to businesscreditbuilders.org, we do have a video on there that you can watch. So with that, I hope you found this video helpful for you in maximizing your ability to get large credit limit approvals for your business. With that, make it a great day. Make sure you click subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Have a great day. We'll talk to you real soon.